What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you a really simple system that you guys can add to your no-gi grappling game from the closed guard. Okay, sometimes the closed guard can be kind of challenging to play no-gi because you don't have the uniform to make grips, such as like a collar grip or like a sleeve grip or even a pants grip. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a submission system that you guys can have from the closed guard, looking at upper body attacks such as arm locks, shoulder locks, and triangle chokes, while linking them all together to create a system based on my training partner's reaction. Okay, so let's take a look at the first option that we have from closed guard, and it's just a simple arm lock. Okay. So as soon as I have my training partner in my closed guard, it would be convenient for me to start using collar grips on my training partner's gi or sleeve grips where I can start dragging and giving back exposure. But in situations where I don't have any of those, I'm just going to start using modern grips that I would do with my hands as if it was a no-gi grappling match, such as wrist grips, tricep grips, and collar ties. Okay? So the first thing we're going to look at is an arm lock from closed guard where my training partner's elbows are in nice and tight, looking at a defensive posture. So for me, what I want to do in any closed guard situation is to start the action of breaking my training partner's posture down. When I do this, it brings me a step ahead because now Derek has to work on regaining his posture for him to start any type of defensive guard breaks or passes. Okay? So as soon as I get into a closed guard, I use an inside collar tie and I start the action of breaking his posture. Now, for me to attack the arm, I just take my hand right here on the outside of his elbow and push it in between my thigh and his rib cage. Okay? A lot of times for him to be defensive, he keeps his elbows flared, and now it's going to be difficult for me to start climbing my legs. So as soon as I punch his elbow in towards my legs, I just step my leg on his hip, and I start the action of biting my leg on his back. Now this leg here has to be up, over, and down to help me reinforce this collar tie. Now from here, I don't want to just shoot an arm lock from this position because a lot of times my training partner can start to posture up as soon as I open up my legs and he's out of there. Okay, so in no-gi, or perhaps in the gi, it'd be different because maybe I have a grip here and I'm starting to utilize this grip to prevent him from posturing up as I throw my leg over, or even a sleeve grip. But in situations where I push his elbow in and I bite up on top, all I'm going to do is whip my leg over his shoulder and keep it on the bottom like so. Okay, so right now we have a position called the top lock. When you have the top lock, just make sure that your training partner's shoulder is covered with your leg and the leg that covers his shoulder is on bottom. That way it creates more pressure downwards to prevent him from escaping the shoulder, okay? If it's on the top, then my training partner might be able to free his shoulder by pushing into me and escaping his shoulder, okay? So as soon as I punch his shoulder inside my top lock, I just make sure that my bottom leg, my leg over his shoulder right here is on bottom. Now for me to attack this arm lock, I want to make sure I keep the most connection as possible. So all I'm going to do is just tilt my knees in a direction towards his face. This will give me enough time so that way I can start to isolate the arm that I want. Now I just push his face away from me as I lock up a nice tight arm lock. Okay? From here, all I have to do is just maintain a back heel motion with my heels going down to the mat to make sure that he doesn't posture up from here. Okay? If you guys like, you can also cross your legs, flare your legs, and keeping a downward pressure like so. So as he tries to move into me, it's going to be pretty difficult. Now from here, we can navigate to 2 hands on the wrist, and we have a nice strong finish on the arm. Okay? The second variation is going to be an arm lock where we have the hand under my armpit. Okay? So same situation goes when I have a collar tie and I try to push his elbow in, but it's not working. A lot of times he can be really defensive here where I try to bring his elbow in, but maybe he brings it right back out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take an inside pommel and I extend my arm up to the sky and get his hand to the floor. As soon as I get his hand to the floor, I want to make sure that I get his hand under my armpit. So to do that, I rotate my body, catch his hand with my armpit, and then swing right back so I can slide his hand off the mat. Now as I'm doing this, I'm holding his tricep, and then from here I'm going to take my hand underneath his leg and open and spin. As soon as I open and spin, take a look at my hand here. It's all the way through and underneath his hamstring. Okay, the idea here is to slide my shoulder to his knee rather than trying to bring his knee to my shoulder. Okay, so from here, to do that, I open my guard and I start to swivel. Now from here, as I swivel, I keep holding his hand in my armpit and I fire my legs up and over my training partner's head, making sure that I keep his hand in between my armpit like so. From here, to have a nice strong grip, I'll just hold on to my IT band like so. From here, I'll perform the same back heel motion to finish the arm lock. And from here, it gets really tight because as the hand is underneath my armpit, it gets closer to the floor and deeper into my hips as my hips act as the fulcrum. Rather than his hand being on my chest, the fact that it's underneath my armpit, it becomes extremely more tight, especially as I add hip pressure and finish like so, okay? So let's take a look at it when we spin this way. So in situations where I try to get a collar tie and I try to push his elbow in and try for the first option, it's not working. So I just take an inside pommel, extend my arm to the sky, bring him forward and cover his hand with my armpit. If I just hold the tricep, a lot of times I'll try to bring his hand with me, it's not gonna work, it's glued to the floor. So I wanna cover his hand with my armpit, pinch it. Now, when I slide, take a look at his arm, it comes with me, okay? Now from here, I'm gonna slide my hand underneath his leg. A lot of times it might be pretty challenging to find the space. So to make sure and ensure that you have space, you bring your knees to your chest and now there's a space, okay? So just lifting his butt off the ground will help you find the space. Now remember, I'm not trying to bring his knee to my shoulder. I just open my guard, turn my knees towards that knee, and then bring my shoulder there. I don't wanna force him towards me, I always move towards him. Now from here, it's not that difficult for me to shift. As soon as I get here, I bring my knee to my chest, and I can cover, pushing his knee, so I can just whip it over. Now from here, I just hold on to the outside of my thigh, bite down like I do originally, so that way he has a hard time posturing up and stacking me. As soon as I get here, I just have a nice little hip elevation, and we get a nice strong arm lock right here on this elbow here. Perfect, so that's the first two options. The next option we have here, we're gonna look at that same arm lock, the first one we have, where I punch his elbow in, and I start the action of stepping, climbing, and locking up a top lock. A lot of people here will come into an extremely aggressive defensive action, and they'll extract this arm that I'm gonna attack. As soon as they extract it all the way, boom, I just allow them to do so, while at the same time, I start the action of locking up a triangle. Really simple transition, most of you, a lot of you guys already know, but if you don't, as soon as your training partner extracts one of his arms, they basically give you the triangle choke, okay? And in situations like these, we just have to make sure that we capitalize on this by reducing the amount of space between my hips and his chest. So, as soon as he escapes his arm, a lot of times there will be a space here, so as soon as he does, we just lift and adjust to make sure that that space gets decreased, okay? Now, all I have to do from here, lift my hips to start the action of crossing his arm, and then from here what I wanna do is cover this shoulder with my knee. Now as I do that, I point both knees in the direction of my eyesight, okay? Now in all triangles, we have to cut an angle, okay? A lot of times when we lock up triangles, we might be able to get a figure 4 lock, but if I'm face on with my training partner, it might be pretty difficult to submit my training partner because of this angle that I have. So to get a really good angle on my training partner, making sure that my inner thigh right here gets right on the neck, I just cut the angle, and I can do so by underhooking his arm and twisting my knees, or I can do the same with using his leg to help me shift the angle. Just make sure that you guys bring your knee up and over and cover your training partner's shoulder as you point your knees in the same direction. Now I just corkscrew my legs up, over, down, and I have a nice strong triangle choke finish, like so, okay? So, we looked at 3 options now. Now let's look at an option when my training partner is kind of in between the defense of a triangle and an arm lock, okay? So what does that look like? I start the action of doing all the setups that we have originally started, where I bite and I lock it up. As soon as I get in positions like so, a lot of times my training partner won't give me the arm, nor will he give me the triangle. A lot of times they'll be kind of in the middle in a position like so. When they connect their hands together, and now from here I can't really shoot a triangle because his elbow's wedged on my hips, and I don't really have the arm anymore because it's kind of slipping away. So from here we're going to look at the Barataplata, okay? Now while we're at the Barataplata, all we're going to do is just take my hand from the outside, and I go from underneath his tricep, and I thread it through. I have to make sure that his wrist is on my hips. Now all I'm going to do is take a hand to the side of his head, and I just bring my shin over and throw as I lock my hand on my own thigh. Just make sure, guys, that you don't take your leg off of this shoulder if your training partner's hand is free. My training partner's hand is free and I throw my leg over, he can just burn through my guard and push me to the side, okay? So I make sure that his forearm is caught in between my legs as I throw it over and grab my own thigh. So now, as he tries to burn through my guard, he's running into my own hips and locked in a configuration where my hand is trapping his wrist, okay? So now from here, I'm gonna start working to hip escape in a direction outwards. So to help me do this, I just place my foot on his hip in a situation where all I have to do now is turn my knee towards his head and open my hips to the sky, okay? So I'm using my hips as a Kimura grip, and all I'm doing is just posting my foot on his hip, opening my chest, and now I have a shoulder lock right here. It forms the same function as if I had a Kimura grip in a situation like so, but rather I'm using my hip instead. Okay, a lot of people are wondering, well, what about all this space right here? Because of his hand and the way the hand moves, he can't just back heel his hand through my wrist and escape, because my wrist is in the way, okay? If my hand was here, yes, he could back heel and start to escape. However, because I have this wedge configuration, when he goes to back heel his hand, it's not gonna work. Now from here, you guys can practice with your training partner, opening up and finishing like so, okay? In situations where my training partner connects his hands and brings his head up nice and tall, from here, it might be pretty difficult to submit your training partner. Not to worry, guys. Make sure that you keep this grip nice and strong. All you're gonna do is swim under your training partner's leg and start to open your leg, connect your hands, and you're gonna sweep your training partner over to the side in situations where you knock your training partner over, and you can post your hand on the ground. You can even start to back step, landing and mount, okay? So let's look at that sweep one more time. We get the action of looking for that arm lock, and instead my training partner gives us a dilemma where we don't have the triangle nor the arm lock. So I just take my rear hand and I thread it through and I start grabbing my own thigh. I can even facilitate with my secondary hand to push his elbow in and make sure that his hand is on my hips. Okay, a lot of times he'll try to escape this hand like so, so I just reinforce. Now from here I step over, lock it up on my own thigh. From here, as I try to start hip escaping, my training partner does a really good job pressuring into me. From here, I just take my hand and I scoop underneath his leg as I start to open. Now from here, it's not that difficult for me to just roll my training partner over. And from here, it's gonna be hard to submit my training partner because the floor is in the way of me putting in hip pressure. So I'll just back step and take top position, okay? Try these out with your training partner, see how this system fits into your game, and maybe you can mix up the order of which you put these submissions to work, okay? So try these out, arm bars and Barataplata shoulder locks. Let me know if you like these. Let me know if any of these work out. Let me know which one of these was kind of the hardest, which one of these was the easiest, okay? So if you enjoyed this system breakdown, let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys, so you can see more of content like this, okay? Thanks so much. Os.